up, guys? We're about to go to the airport in my parents' super cool minivan.
Hi. Excited?
You finally hit her on the drive here.
Your whole world's gonna open up. It really, really is.
What a great experience.
Have a great time, Mama. Oh my God.
Have fun, sweetie. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Guys, we're gonna go ahead and check in. Swipe your passport up at the top and it will pop out there and you're good to go.
On behalf of your Boston-based crew, we'd like to welcome you on board. We'll be 6 hours and 33 minutes at London. Center in the United Kingdom through London.
Just arrived in London.
Hey, I'm Terry. Nice to meet you. Hello, guys. Welcome to London.
So I've been to England a couple of times with students. This summer will be my 11th trip with kids through Westfield High School. And this is also the first year I'm doing it in the summer because we have lots of opportunities for kids in the spring. And so I figured, well, let's give kids another time frame. Sometimes we have students who are playing sports and they can't travel in the spring. So we're doing Dominican Republic this year as a service learning trip, and if that goes well, have some of those students talk to other students about how that works out. It'll be my first service learning trip with kids. So I'm really looking forward to that. A little bit about who I am as a teacher. Obviously I said I was an English teacher, so the AP English literature trip is very appealing to me. England's great. It's definitely like going to the places. So I'm also a sci-fi fantasy fan. So being able to go to the places that Tolkien walked around and, you know, it's very exciting. So the enthusiasm about actually doing learning during the trip is really wonderful. I see students from the beginning of the trip to the end of the trip really changing quite a bit, maturing and growing up. And I had the same experience actually when I was a kid. When I was 15, maybe I was just about 16, I went to Mexico with my Girl Scout trip, which was pretty exciting. I'm still a Girl Scout today, that's pretty important to me. It was really life-changing. I mean, not only just because Girl Scouts is such a great organization, but we did community service. We learned a bit about the world outside of ourselves, and it really was empowering. And then when I got out of college, the last full year of college, I worked, I was an RA, and I saved money for a trip that I planned with another friend. So 2 friends and myself, we traveled through Europe for 6 weeks. We did that whole sort of, you know, that thing that young people do with backpacks and going to youth hostels. So we went from Amsterdam to Athens in 6 weeks. So we really covered a lot of ground. It was awesome. So I'm familiar with the rigors of traveling on my own and myself, and also bringing kids overseas and the different kinds of experiences and sometimes some of the hurdles of being far away from home.
My teacher, Miss Rose, brought us on this trip.
And our local tour guide, she added in all these extra facts that it was like only the insiders know, you know, the really local people get to know.
That's cool. It's an entire shift when you actually come here to experience it firsthand.
This is such an active tour. You get really involved in the culture, and it's amazing.
To see their perspectives change, to see their eyes open up wide, that's something really special.
Life keeps going on.
Welcome to Peru!
Just makes everything that we have studied for so many years become reality in some very, very special and unique ways.
It's exciting to actually have a bratwurst from Germany.
I had spaghetti noodles with Tuscan meat sauce. So good.
This is the classroom. Suddenly the words leap off the page.
Being able to apply all the knowledge I have to something that I can touch, that I can see, that I can hear the echoes bouncing off the walls, and it was unlike any other experience I've had.
We're in the center of Prague.
Here we are in the marketplace of Crete.
We're at Manuel Antonio National Park in Costa Rica.
This is our classroom.
We've all learned about it in history class, we've all seen it in the textbooks, but to actually be here and to actually go onto the Acropolis and be able to see the Parthenon is more than I imagined it would be.
it completely does a 360 to your perspective. You suddenly just see the world as so much bigger. You look around and then you have this moment and you're just like, all right, I'm here, but this is just the beginning.
Confidence is definitely going to be my best souvenir.
One of the places I have not been to, I always like it when I get to go to someplace new, is the Lake District. The trips I did before didn't go up far north like this one does. And we get to specifically look at some of these places in England as how they relate to some of the authors that students will study in AP Lit, the senior year course. And some of you here, some people here are sophomores right now, right? A few of you are sophomores. You may not know if you're going into AP Lit, but when I designed the invitations, I picked the people who were pre-AP and planning to take AP their junior year, and the people who are in AP their junior year and have signed up for their senior year. So that's how I selected this group of students. Eventually, and I'll talk more about that later, you guys are like the first priority. And so you'll have the first slots to sign up, and then I will open it, if there's room, I'll open it to more students within the school, because there may be probably some other students who might be interested who weren't in that particular group. The Bath region, there's some nice photos in the album of the Bath region. It looks like Roman baths. The water's kind of green. It's beautiful. It's really interesting too, because one of the things I've talked to students about when we've gone to some of these ancient Roman ruins, and then all of a sudden students are like, well, I'm in England, and Rome isn't that close to here. So you really get a sense of the scale and the scope of history and movement of people, which is really interesting. And the first time we went to the Roman baths, I do remember students just sort of standing there in awe. You know, I remember even hearing some kids say, I didn't think it was going to be like this. It was very cool. Oxford is great. There's also some of you, if you grew up as a Harry Potter fan, sometimes the local guides will also point out places where the movie was filmed. So sometimes we get a little bit of that too. What's the name of the alley where you buy your wand? Yeah, we can see that usually on the bus trip, and some other places. Oh, and the platform.
9 3/4.
Yes, thank you. That one, they've got like the cart halfway through to get your picture taken. Like, I'm going. Yeah, that's. We usually have to take a stop there. So we would take.
Every tour includes somebody like me, NEF tour director. We are taking care of you from the very moment you arrive at the airport to the very last moment you're flying back home again.
And our job is to manage the logistics, check in with hotels, restaurants, local guides, and all the aspects that make a tour run smoothly. We also show you the local culture. We're showing you what the locals eat. We're showing you small little ice cream places maybe that you might not find in a guidebook. We really try everything to bring the country alive for you.
Group trips like EF, they try to consolidate their costs. So if we have a small group, like let's say we have 20, they want to fill the bus. The tour bus has maybe 40 seats on it or so. So they will join you with another group of American students. Usually they're from the Northeast in the springtime, but because we're traveling in the summer, they could be from anywhere. And I have been on one trip where we had a group from California, which was really fun. And most of the time, the students, it's awesome. Students just start, the first day it's like, oh, I don't know, those people are weird. I'm not really good at mixing with other people. I'm nervous. And then after a day and a half or 2 days, everybody's all mixing and mingling and enjoying new friendships. And it's really awesome.
Was it the last trip where the kids were doing skits together?
That was 2 years ago. Yeah, we had this beautiful evening where students there are some kids from another school, Delaware, and they were singers. And we had some other musicians in our group, and they did a talent night. Someone found that there was a guitar in the hotel, And so then all these kids got together. It was wonderful, and I had never seen that before. Safety is always a big issue. Definitely, it's something that I certainly am worried about. The first time I went on a trip, I brought with me 2 other teachers, one who had traveled with the German exchange program a couple of times. But certainly I want to make sure that kids are safe and the adults are safe. We have had a few little moments here and there where I was worried about people, but it's worked out okay. We had a couple of years ago, students thought they knew what the right meeting point was, and they're awesome students who I never would worry about. And so when they didn't show up at the meeting point, I really started to roll in my mind what might be going on. And we found them. They were lost for maybe an hour or something like that. But my heart was racing. But I got really good support from the staff. The kids figured out they could call home. There's a special EF Tour emergency number, and then they got in touch with EF Tours, and then they called me, and we were able to figure out. There was a couple of translation issues about like where were they, at the train station or the bus station, but we found them, and it all worked out fine. And they were fine. They were not injured. They were upset, and our tour director handled it so well too, because he was like, when the kids got back on the bus, he told everybody, he was like, no joking, this is not, they're upset about what has happened. We're gonna let them have some space. And so it worked out really well. Now they have these little wristbands with the 800 number, that's the emergency number that the kids wear for the whole part of the trip. I do maintain curfews in the evening, I do room checks. I do have, an orderly way about things. I make sure I know where my students are. This is something that I have not experienced. EF has done different components to help kids be sort of involved in the trip before they go and during the trip. A couple of years ago, I had set up a little site while we were traveling, and I could put like little pictures up as we went so parents could follow along on our journey. In the Ireland trip, I did that through like a flip video camera, and actually if you find me on YouTube, you can see those old videos. They're terrible, they're really poorly edited. What I did is I just took like smashed up pieces of what the day was and stuck them together, and then you'd have like a little sneak preview or just a view of the day, but parents loved it and it was actually a lot of fun. I had good internet connectivity that particular trip. Sometimes I don't, depending on where we are. But this is something I'm not as familiar with. I think it might be like a personal blog. And they do have college and high school credit options, which has always been part of EF Tours. And I have checked with administration in the past, and they said if a student wants to go in this direction, we can probably work with them. So if you want to augment a trip with additional credit, I've never had students take me up on this. I've had a few that were interested, and then they got to their senior year and said, I'm too busy. But there are some other options. In the past, EF Tours has allowed students to do that part for free. But if that's an interest, jot a note, and I'll help do the research for that.
We're committed to providing safe travel opportunities. That's why you'll automatically be covered by EF's Peace of Mind program. In the case of social unrest or natural events that make traveling to your destination unsafe, we'll work with your group to make alternate arrangements. When you're making an investment like this, it's important to think about protecting it. EF's Global Travel Protection Plan covers the unexpected. Things like medical issues, stolen property, a canceled or interrupted tour, or even a flight delay. 80% of our travelers choose this insurance because it saves them the hassle of finding coverage elsewhere. If you need to cancel your tour for a reason not covered by the insurance plan, please review EF's standard cancellation policy online or in your enrollment booklet.
In addition to what the whole package consists of, which you're going to find out in a second, students have to have just their own spending money for their trinkets and beverages and lunches and snacks. Now, they say $30 to $65 per day. I had a student, when he did this as a freshman, it was John Kiefer, some of you probably know him. He was very frugal. He's like, I think he was like $20 or less per day and bought one souvenir. So some people, it doesn't, the souvenirs are maybe pictures and maybe not buying a bunch of stuff. Tips, I usually collect those about a month before the trip. They say it's about $9 a day. That can vary depending on how many days we're on a bus, because a bus driver gets tipped and the tour director gets tipped. And believe it, they are worth it. How about Santiago, the tips for him down in Costa Rica? He was feeding alligators big pieces of chicken, and Mr. Tiska said to crocodiles.
Yeah, there's a difference.
All right, and the
One exceeds, 25 feet.
He's the science guy, and so afterwards, we were all in horror. We thought for sure that this guy was going to be eaten right in front of us. He was in the water.
It was really tense. Without getting into the story, I was like, this man could die right now. And when he got back in the boat, I turned to the students and I said, you tip him. That man just put his life on the line for you to go on this little excursion. Tip him well. He earned it.
Yeah. So there's interesting things that happen. For students, it's $34.18. If we have any adults who'd like to come, it's $37.83. I think the weekend supplement, which is $35, is if we travel on a weekend, so we might be able to take that one off. Yep, and Windsor is included. It's worth it. You got to go to the castle. If you want to do a automatic payment plan, like through your credit card or something like that, you can do that actually with EF Tours. And then you can actually pay in a longer frame of time. Usually they want everything paid up 2 months before the trip, but I think you can extend it a little longer if you do the electronic payment. If you're looking at it and you're saying this is not possible, we could flip that and say, how can we make this possible? If this is what your heart desires. Think about when I was 21 and I said, you know what, I'm going to Europe for 6 weeks. I'm going to make this happen. And I worked and I saved money, and there are ways that it can happen. I've had students pay for their whole trips themselves. They're working. That's John Kiefer paid for 3 of his trips himself, so he went on 4, that's a lot. But it was what he wanted to do.
We're going to give you your keys out now. You're all on the 8th floor. You are in Piccadilly Circus, the centre of London. Everything radiates from here. This side, you've got Royal London. Up this way, you've got Theatreland. Over this way, you've got Museum.